Yeah, I get you. I get you. They're just gonna look wherever they yeah. I get you. Yeah, that makes sense. So have you been to that? Have you been to that new org yet? Have you been to that new building?
Whisked
Okay.
away.
Thank you for talking with me, sir.
Whisked away. And I thought it was interesting that he shared that there are people there from Russia who are helping. So, they're trying to become this ideal organization, this big and thriving organization. And like what's happening in Austin, where they're about to open their new building, and they're bringing people from all over the place because there aren't enough Scientologists in many of these cities to staff the organization and keep it going. And it's interesting, they'll bring people in from all over. Now, I do wonder, though, sometimes I wonder about when they're bringing people over to work on these organizations who are coming from other countries. We have heard for decades multiple reports of Scientology holding on to people's passports so that they can't leave, which in Scientology, if you leave without authorization, that's called a blow. You're blowing. And we've heard over and over again, literally Serge talks about it too, where they held his passport and he wasn't allowed to leave. And they do this often with people who come over from other countries. And so right away, I'm concerned. I'm like, are their passports being held? Are they going to be allowed to leave? Are they brought over? Are they being paid? Because Scientology will hide behind this whole, they're religious workers. They're religious workers. They're religious volunteers. Forget that you signed a 2.5 year or 5 year contract. And then if you leave prior to that, you're given a bill for the training you did to do your job. And if you're in the C organization and you don't make it the billion years you're supposed to be, same thing. You get a bill handed to you and a program, what you need to do to get back into the good graces of Scientology. It's really crazy. And I thought that was interesting too. Like, okay, so in Chicago, this isn't just something we're seeing in Florida around the Flag Land Base there or around Los Angeles as well. In around the blue building, some of the interviews have been with people and you learn they're from, outside the country. So it's been a thought. It's been a thought. Okay, follow up to that question. If they are raised by narcissists and abusers, do they not know it's disturbing because it's normalized? Yes, I would say exactly that. That's part of the issue is I can speak from someone who grew up in Scientology that and I wasn't raised by narcissists or abusers. My mom got into Scientology. She married a Scientologist. Were there times when she was neglectful as a parent? Yes, because of Scientology. Because in Scientology, you're told that, children are just big beings in little bodies. And so you're not seen as a child, the expectations for you of more that you should be more like an adult. And that's just not okay. That's not okay because it's not true. And what ends up happening is it puts children in positions of being more susceptible to being abused. It normalizes them. Their training routine drills where they do this with children from childhood all the way up through adulthood, where you sit across from each other and you're supposed to try and find a button that you can push that causes a reaction, and you push it over and over and over again until you don't get a reaction. And often these are sexual. Myself, I was doing a training program when I was 16 years old in Los Angeles, right there at the Blue Buildings. I went there from Hawaii, where I was born and raised, to train to be a staff member for Scientology in Hawaii. And as part of my training, we had to do these training routines. And a lot of what's done when you're the student, you work with a coach, and that's the person who's trying to push your buttons and find them. It's called bull baiting in Scientology. And if you react, you twitch, you move, you laugh, you get mad, you cry, whatever it is, you're told flunk, start, and they do it again. And they will push that same button over and over again on you till you no longer react to it, regardless of your age. They can say anything to you. They just can't touch you when you're doing these drills. So through these drills, it begins to normalize as a child. Adults do these drills too. But as a child, it normalizes adults saying these things to you. And the training is to train you because, in my case, I was training to be what's called an ethics officer, but a like really trained one. I think they were called magistrates then. They might still be now. I don't know. But that was what I was being trained to do in Scientology. So, as part of my training at 15, 16 years old, I had to, part of my job was going to be dealing with the ethics of adults, right? Of all Scientologists in my area. So in Los Angeles, as part of my training, I had to do ethics interviews and work with adult Scientologists. I had to handle male Scientologists on masturbating, which they were not allowed to do while they were doing Scientology auditing. And here I am. I was still a virgin. I didn't even had sex. I didn't, and I'm having to handle a grown male more than one time off of a report that I would get saying that, it says here that you've been masturbating outside of your Scientology training and auditing, and that's not okay. And then work out a program or a handling to get him to stop doing that. Completely inappropriate. Did I think it was inappropriate at the time? No, because that's what I was trained to do. And it was normalized in me from a young age that I'm an adult. I'm a big being in just a smaller body. So I should be able to do this because that's the expectation. That's what's expected of me. Complete and utter BS. And that is part of the behavior that normalizes treating a child like that and normalizes it within you as the child that I still need to have these conversations, even if it's about this sexual matters, sexual things. Scientology auditors, like literally Serge, when he was trained as a child to audit adults, would have to listen to instances of pedos, of just disgusting things. And it all starts with those earlier training routines in Scientology. Let's grab another question. Squirrel SPTV, do you have a pit clip of Joey? I haven't seen him on the live streams that I caught. Erica, what do members think about not being able to talk about it? If Scientology is so great, wouldn't they want to get the word out and push recruitment? How do they reconcile being shut up about it? Okay, so you can talk about Scientology in the terms of, I love Scientology. I've been in Scientology for X amount of years. You cannot explain what Scientology is. That's why when I say first rule in Scientology, y'all know it. Let's hear it. Don't talk about Scientology. L. Ron Hubbard said, don't explain Scientology. Have them read a book. Sell them a book. Trust me too, they're selling you a book. They ain't giving you a book. And this is through how Scientologists are trained to respond to questions about Scientology. Read a book. You should read a book and find out for yourselves. Do a course, buy a course. Most, I would say, other religions that I'm aware of, if I walk up to somebody and said, hey, can you tell me about Buddhism? What is it? They will tell me and explain what it is, but not in Scientology. And they reconcile that with everything else that they do or have to believe, which is a bit odd, but because L. Ron Hubbard said so. It all comes down to that. The indoctrination in Scientology, as you move further and further into it, you become more and more, you have that mind control because you believe, well, whatever L. Ron Hubbard says, I have to do. That's pretty much it in what I asked. Amy, where do you think Scientology would be today if there was streaming 20 years ago? I think it would be shut down by now. I think that there wouldn't be any more tax exempt status. I think, because who knows how long that we're going to have to do this with this medium, with streaming and getting the word out. And the beauty of this, my hope, because I came from the Scientology community because I grew up in Scientology, and I still hold a place in my heart and a hope and a desire that the people there who want to leave are able to leave. There are many people in Scientology who have to still maintain the facade of supporting Scientology because of their family connections, their business connections. It could be some tie financially. I've seen that over and over again, what's happening with live streaming and so many more creators sharing all about this is it's spreading the word. It's raising awareness that Scientology is a cult, and that is going to stop people from getting into Scientology. So even though they hardly have anybody joining, they're dependent largely on second and third generation Scientologists and even upcoming fourth generation Scientologists. Fourth generation in my family, my grandkids, they are the first ones to never have been in Scientology. So my two grandkids, who are 6 and 2, are never in. It's not something that they're going to grow up around. There will be no introduction to it other than when they become of an age where it's appropriate. They can go back and watch all grandma's videos about Scientology. And I'm very proud of that. It took the fourth generation in my family to have these never ends. And the more people we're finding out and sharing about the abuses in Scientology to the public in general, then people will not get in Scientology to begin with. And eventually they're just going to be gone. They're going to become extinct because the second, third generation, especially the third generation Scientologists, they're going to have a lot harder time with because they're growing up with technology. It would be very strange for them to not be connected to people on the internet. So Scientologists, let me put it this way. There was a time where, right, there were children in the Sea Organization that were growing up as kids. Then at a certain point, rule came out, you can't have kids in the Sea Organization. Now, you can be a Sea Org member as a child, but you can't like join the Sea Org with a 5-year-old. There's no facilities to take care of the child. And they should never have had children there in the first place. You can be a child of 12, 13, 14 if you and do the Sea Organization boot camp and join the Sea Organization still. They still allow that. And you'll be on your own without a parent. So what's going to happen though is these kids, a lot of them are growing up, even if their parents are Scientologists, they're out there going to school. They have social media, they have phones, and these messages getting out on TikTok, YouTube, getting out to where they are, they will be exposed to this and will have easier access to it. They also were growing up thinking differently, even if their parents are hardcore Scientologists. When I was growing up, we didn't have the internet. We didn't have access to information in this way. I had to go to the library and use encyclopedias if I needed to find out information or do a report for school. Whereas even these kids growing up in Scientology, they have this access. So we're able to cut off new people getting into Scientology in many ways because look at what we're seeing. What do we see in these videos when Scientologists are getting on a bus to go anywhere? They are much older. A lot of them are older. They're older than I am, and I'm 53. And I think that says a lot about who is left in Scientology. So if we can prevent young people from ever getting into Scientology in the first place, then you cut it off. You stop it right there. But if I can get a low-level job, not much will be expected of me, and I could stay out of trouble. Laura Estrada, thank you so much for the super chat. I am a behavioral therapist and think of all the kids with undiagnosed disabilities. I want to help. How? No one talks about it. Wow. If you have not emailed me already, please do, Natalie@tonkatalk.com. That is a really good point. It's the kids with undiagnosed disabilities. The number of people with undiagnosed mental illness in Scientology and in the organization is very real. I remember when I was there doing my training as a 15, 16-year-old. And I remember a woman, she was a course room supervisor. I think she was from France. I remember she was just beautiful. And I admired her. I admired her work. And she was a supervisor over one of the course rooms. And next thing you know, she's gone. And I had heard that she was under security watch, and they call it that she went type 3. That's a Scientology term for potential trouble source type 3, or as I like to call it, potential trouble source of the third kind. And what that means is that she had had a psychotic break. And I would either see them having it or know and understand what was being done because they did. That's what happened with Lisa McPherson. And look what happened to her. She died after being held for 14, 15, 16, 17 days, whatever it was, in the Fort Harrison by Scientologists when she could have been in the hospital getting help, but they got her out of there. She went to the hospital, they got her out of there because of psychiatry, and then she ended up dead. The numbers of people who unalive themselves, or at least who try just to get out of the C organization because they feel so desperate that there's no other way and they're not getting help. It's very much a big thing. It's a real thing. And for me, it's what helps motivate me to continue to do this because they're still there. There are still people like that. There are some, hey, I want to be here. No, I'm all like Team Sea Org and all that. Fine, do your thing. But I can tell you there are people in the Sea organization right now who want out, who feel trapped, who don't think that they can just walk away and leave. I mean, and at times you can't because it will physically take you back and put you under what they call security watch, where somebody watches you 24/7 to make sure that you don't leave and you don't blow. So that's a big motivator. That's a big motivator for me. And those are part of many of the stories that, need to be shared.
It's like called HEM. It's Hubbard E-Meter Manufacturing. So all the cadets were working there.
I would still be interested to see this sort of activity even done outside of a place that isn't busy. Like even that would be interesting.
No, I mean, and it's actually important to do it there because, okay, you may be at a place where maybe you could stop one person a day from going in there, but that's not the point, right? Just getting the video of that, putting it on social media, showing people what they can do themselves elsewhere and bring attention to the cause. Listen, you can be outside of an empty building and film something while talking about how Scientology is a destructive cult and talk about their tax exempt status and so on and so forth. And I have another thing I've been saying, you don't actually have to confront Scientologists themselves. Scientology needs to lose their tax exempt status. The only way that's going to happen is with political pressure. If there's an elected official, you should ask them their stance on Scientology. It takes 2 seconds. They can all answer that, and it doesn't matter where it's at. It doesn't matter if you're in Arkansas and a politician's a dog catcher. Ask them, should Scientology keep their tax-exempt status? Get them on record, normalize doing that. I can't imagine any would say yes. At best, they would just not answer or would say, well, I have no power in that. Well, yeah, you have no power in that. That's not the point. Where do you stand on this issue? Ask your student body at school about this because of listen, again, we talk about human trafficking throughout the world like it's so distant. It's happening right here on Hollywood Boulevard. It's happening right here in our cities and all throughout the US, and it's happening with tax exempt status. Should they keep it? Ask every single politician, ask them it, make a TikTok about it and post it. If you don't want to post it, you can send me the video and I'll post it. If you post it, I'll repost it. But make this a thing. You don't actually have to be here in LA. You can be in any town in any state and ask your local politicians that basic question and normalize that. And I think that will have a huge effect.
I love it.